Okay, gamers. Let's talk about the strongest rule in 40k. There is a rule in 40k that is either breaking Warhammer or making Warhammer. I don't know which one. I want you guys at home to decide. It's very interesting. This rule is you know, it's causing some controversy. People aren't enjoying it, but also it's kind of carrying some lists. Now there are some armies in the meta that really struggle to play the game, such as Death Guard, such as Necrons, such as Marines. But this rule, in my opinion, is single-handedly helping carry those armies to the top of the meta, which is quite interesting. We're going to talk about it today. The Bodyguard is a really interesting rule. While a friendly chapter character that has a wound characteristic of 9 or less is within 3 inches of this unit, enemy models cannot target that character with ranged attacks. Now that sounds like straightforward, you know, it sounds fine. It sounds fine, but this can be abused and is starting to show that it's very, very janky for maybe the good of the game, but potentially to the detriment of the game, and that's what I want to talk about. Now, I watch a lot of Warhammer. I run tournaments, so I watch a lot of competitive games. And 2 lists, so one, the Bolter and the Chainsaw, my 2 events I run recently, have both utilized this rule very well. And I'm going to show you how they work on the tabletop. So I've actually got a table set up now. This is a board, right? This is a board. This is a WTC setup, so WTC style terrain. And the mission I've set up for is priority target. But yeah, so this is the mission in the last round of our events currently, or in the last 2 events we just ran. With priority target, so 5 objectives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is quite interesting because in this mission, you move the objectives before you play. Now, I'm going to show you some ways that the players are using Bodyguard on this board, which is really interesting. We're going to have Iron Hands on this side, and we're going to have Sisters of Battle on this side. The reason being is that this is the size that the players actually used in the game, but they weren't playing each other. It was two different games. So in priority targets, essentially what you have, each player rolls off. One becomes the attacker, one becomes the defender, and they take it in turns moving objectives. Let's say blue rolls a 2, so blue is this side, and pink rolls a 6. So they'll move their first objective. So we're going to move this objective first. Player 1 moves as an A or a B. Player 2 moves an A and a B. And then player 1 moves the last one. So we're going to move this one this way 6 inches, okay? And what essentially happened here was this objective got moved this way, further out actually. So they put that there like this. Now the other 2 objectives don't make too much of a difference because they're the 2 important ones I want to talk about, but I'm going to move them anyway. Now we've got a Dreadnought. Now in this instance, this is an Iron Hands Dreadnought that has twin Volkites, a missile launcher, and it's also a character because you can do that in Iron Hands. You can make Dreadnoughts characters. Being a character is really good. He's also going to be taking a Warlord trait. Essentially, any 6s give him extra hits. But being a character is very important because we've also got 2 little Space Marines. Now these are going to count as company veterans, which we've just looked at the datasheet for. So these have the Bodyguard special role. That also should really have Storm Shield, but we're going to give them. We don't really matter for this instance. It's just to show off. So this deployment zone is this blue line because it's priority targets, right? We've got this big L. Essentially, what we were seeing was this Dreadnought sitting here on the deployment line, and then these 2 company veterans, right, sitting right up against the wall, but 3 inches away, and then 2 inches from each other. So we've got a Dreadnought here, and we've got 2 Space Marines here. This Dreadnought, in this list, in this instance, is a character, and it's within 3 inches of a bodyguarded unit. Right, this Dreadnought has firing line straight down there, also has a firing line straight down here, and straight up there. You can see quite a lot of the board. Whilst this Dreadnought can see a lot, there's also a lot of stuff that can see it. But because of Bodyguard, this Dreadnought can't be targeted with ranged weapons whatsoever. Not in combat, not in Overwatch, nothing, because of Bodyguard. And this is basically what we're seeing. We're seeing this Dreadnought kind of shuffle around ever so slightly, but never leaving 3 inches from these guys who are also holding the objective, which is really actually like super strong. And this is like really, really good. This is a really good play, a really good setup. That was one instance we were seeing Bodyguard and seeing how strong this was. Now the other instance was the one that Robbo did, which I thought was really interesting. Now for this one, we've got some different models. Now none of these are painted, I'm so sorry. However, we have some Celestian Sacrisans, which are the new Sisters little sword and board guys. these ones. These also have Bodyguard, okay? We need 2 units of those, but you know. So we've also got Celestine. Now Celestine's really good. She's really good in combat. She's a really nasty character. Also, she can heroically intervene 6 inches, which is very important. Very, very important. So what Robbo was doing in his game is that he deployed Sacrosancts in here, okay? Like this, so they can't be seen. Now these are out of sight, okay? The other thing that can see them is stuff that ignores line of sight. But then when they do get seen, they have a 2R armor save, a 4+ invuln. Really good. Celestine and her Gemini are a unit, but they're also a character unit, okay? And the thing is with it, is because they're a character unit, they can stretch out like a unit, but benefit from Bodyguard. Let me show you how he's doing it. Essentially, what he's doing is measuring 3 inches, which is just to the outside of this building here, right? Just there, and a Gemini would go there, like that, okay? Now, it's a unit, so we're going to stretch it out like we like to. We've got another 2 inches there, and then we've got another 2 inches there. It's a unit of 3, you can conga line like this. Now, Celestine was sat here. Because this unit is within 3 inches of the Gemini, you can't target Celestine with any ranged weapons whatsoever. However, Celestine is not only holding this objective, that if anyone goes within 6 inches of her, which is just up to that wall, if you go up to here, you know, if you go past these crates, if you go up to that line, she can heroically intervene and attack, and then retreat combat and return in your own turn, because heroically intervene is done in your opponent's turn. So this Celestine basically stayed here until she was needed, basically. When Manny didn't have enough to deal with Celestine, Celestine flew in, which I thought was super interesting. The other way he was using them, now again, I don't have enough bodyguards, so I'm just going to nick a couple here just for the example. He had Morven Val, who also isn't painted, but he had a Dog Martyr, little chaplain, behind here, in this building. He had the Celestine Sacrosancts sat up against the wall. He had the Dog Martyr sat here behind this building. He had the Celestine Sacrosancts there, out of sight. And then Morven Val literally sat at the front of his army like this. He had Retributors here, he had some other shenanigans here and here, but the Dog Martyr was giving the Celestine Sacrosancts objective secured. And then Morven Val just sat at the front of the army. This Dreadnought in this game can't shoot her, but also she can't shoot the Dreadnought, which is hilarious. Even though they're the closest visible, the closest at all, the only models on the board but are in the bodyguards, these two can't interact with each other. But she's just sat there giving out all of her buffs to the Retributors and stuff, or anything that's around this board. She can move out, but as long as these just advance this way, out of the way, she's still protected, which is really interesting. It's really, really strong. I really don't know how I feel about it, because that rule is single-handedly deciding which armies I take to tournaments because of that rule, because of how good it is. It feels very stupid. It feels stupid and wrong, but at the same time, it almost feels necessary for these armies to do well, because without that rule, these armies almost can't, well, maybe not sisters, but especially like Space Marines. It almost feels like they can't interact properly and they can't do well in the event, because all of their good stuff just gets obliterated. Where, you know, when you've got stuff like this, then you can protect them. And this is why like out of line of sight shooting is getting so popular. Things like the Sakaran Arcus, which is 2 damage. Things like Skitari vehicle with the out of line of sight shooting. I think it's almost necessary, but that's because there's other problems. It's kind of like a bandage to other issues in the game. Whereas like maybe it shouldn't be a thing, but also these armies need it to compete. Like Death Guard use it as well, because they use Death Shroud Terminators to protect them, because they have Bodyguard as well. That's why Death Shroud Terminators are Chad Bodyguard unit. I like shooting won't kill them. But it's really hard. It's really hard because like if you've got a big unit of Celestians in that building, they've still got one. They've only got 1 wind each, but they've still got a 4+ invuln, right? But these ones, they should have storm shields. You put them in terrain. They've got a 1-up save and a 4+ invuln. Now, as soon as they die, but if you're shooting a 2-man unit, you're not shooting anything else. But the Dreadnought works really well. It's because it's such a good firing platform. You can't target it. He's got so many shots. He's got like 16 shots at strength 6, and then missile launchers as well. And you just have to look at it. If you don't have any line of sight out of line of sight shooting, it's GG, because he's just going to stand there and obliterate you in the middle of your army. You know, see everything. And you can't do anything. And then Val on the other side is doing the same. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know if it's broken. I don't know if it's like, you know, needed, if it's necessary. I don't know. It's very interesting though. I think that it's so clearly counterintuitive. People are picking up on it as a problem a lot more than other rules. Yeah, there's a lot of rules that are issued. There's a lot of things with Warhammer that are an issue in 40k, but this one seems the most divisive. It's weird. It's non-interactive, as I said. Like that dreadnought, you can't see it. You can't target it. What are you gonna do about it? You're gonna charge it. Okay, you're gonna get through like 2 turns of it just shooting you. And all the rest of the army, this is just a 170 point unit with these, so it's a 200 point unit that throws out so many shots with mortal wounds and missile launchers. I don't know how I feel about it, but all good lists for using it. You know, in Necron you have Bodyguard to protect your Chronomancers. That's cool. Protect your Chronomancers, still really good. It's only 40 points. But in this, protecting Dreadnought, protecting Celestine, like look at how far out Celestine is there, right? If we go to the max, let's see how far she can go. Right, so the Bodyguard is here. Right, that's within 3. That's 2 inch, another 2 inch. Right then, so that's a straight line. Celestine is being protected by a model that is around 10 inches away. 10 inches, like a 10-inch line. And currently there, she can heroically intervene into that building, but she's protected from shooting. That seems so daft. But literally, like look, if I go like that, she can go into the building. So if something goes and hides in here, if someone goes, I'm going to hide here from everything, Celestine can intervene, because she can intervene 6 inches. Like, what's going on? Why? Why is this a thing? It's so bizarre. Bodyguards are supposed to take the hit for what they're protecting. There's no need for them to just make the unit randomly untargetable. Yeah, it's weird. If the wounds was like, oh, if you target this, then they move over to this unit instead, it'd still be good, but would nowhere near as good. But it is just really good right now. Quickly, Bodyguard, hide whilst I stand out here so I cannot be shot. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's just the way rules interactions like this are always like, they don't make sense in your head, but they work. But this one feels like almost oppressive, but also at the same time, if you take these rules away, these armies suddenly can't compete very well. Not so much Sisters, but still, they'll just drop from the meta. Like Admech and Dracarys just carry on doing really well. Whereas like Space Marines are really relying on it. Death Guard are really relying on it. I don't know. I thought that was funny. I thought it was interesting. I thought I'd bring that up and share that information with you. And something to watch out for if you are playing against people who are using Bodyguard.